That brings us to item number 11, which is our superintendent's report. And I will turn it over to Dr. Melton. Dr. Melton.
Well, Chairman Gant, there are a few times I would ever want to follow Cassie Paschal, but this evening I will do that just to celebrate, first of all, the work of Ms. Paschal, her administrative team, and her entire staff. The culture at Irma Middle is one that you can feel. It's one that you can celebrate, and students are looking forward to coming here every day, to the fact that when the school year started, we had one student mistakenly get off the bus here that should not have been here because this was home. So things like that don't happen by mistake. This small group that Ms. Paschal described so carefully, it's more than instruction, it's relationships, and it's safety, and it's acceptance. So I'd like to pause one more time to congratulate the work of Irma Middle School. They have taken this and they have made it their own. As everyone knows, the governor closed School District 5 and many others by executive order for the dates of September the 11th through September the 14th. During that time of closure, there are so many things that happened. Although we're not operating instructionally and we're not operating as a typical calendar, we had so many people working behind the scenes. Mr. Richardson and our facilities staff, our technology staff, to make sure that things were operational and actually had to be taken down to make sure that no damage came into our infrastructure. Our maintenance team, our transportation team, I see Mr. Wiseman back in the back. Our communications department, Ms. Goggins, is faithful and tireless with her efforts to make sure that our communication gets out. But I have to also pause to celebrate the work of our student nutrition, again, Mr. Richardson's department. For the first time ever, School District 5 hosted food trucks to feed 2 meals on Thursday and Friday to our students. And for the first time, the Irma Optimist Club partnered with us to send snack packs home to those students that came to get meals on Friday. So we do enjoy celebrating first, but that made a difference in the lives and the homes of our students, and I'd like to make sure we say publicly to record the work of so many affected the lives of so many children. Who knows how many hungry children we avoided because of the work of these people that are committed and are willing to come in to make a difference. So from us to all of you, thank you for your work. During the time of closure, we indeed were not closed because we were focusing on the needs of children. There is a popular question about makeup days, and we have offered a commitment to our principals. We are having a conference call with them on Thursday of this week after a meeting that I have on Wednesday of this week. So we hope to have something out before the end of this work week so that parents can start to make plans, but it may be the early part of next week. As soon as we can get a decision out, we will be using the calendar which was board approved last year, so there will not be any surprises to our families, but we know that we need to make sure that we get those dates out to get things back in operation. Mr. Gann, I'd also like to provide an update to you and to the board and the community. We know that we're working on a facilities study, but with those 4 days of missed operation, Mr. Richardson and I have worked with the coordinated external evaluators that are doing this project with us. We had to do a lot of rescheduling, so we are a little bit behind schedule simply because of that. Had to get them back in the flow last week, trying to get caught up this week, so we are not at the position yet that we could offer you a tentative date of completion, but we are certainly working to revise that to be as thorough as possible, but also as conscious of our timing to make sure that the work that we bring to you is one that's can be timely and useful. But I do want to make sure that the board and the community understands there will be a delay in that project simply because of the 4 missed days that we had. Tonight, Mr. Richardson is going to be offering a report to us found in Exhibit B of our monthly financial reports. Mr. Richardson.
Dr. Melton, members of the board, in your packet, Exhibit B, we have the monthly financials for the months of July and August, since we haven't had the opportunity to present one for fiscal year 19 at this time. For both months combined, we've received $12,420,958.95, and we've expended during that same time period $14,429,844.18. I want to just let you know that really concludes my report, with the exception of I'll try to answer any questions you may have, and I do want to point out to you on the first revenue page, you'll see the first 2 line items there. One is for Lexington County and one is for Richland County. We have still not received any funds from Richland County thus far this fiscal year. That concludes my report, unless you have specific questions.
Ms. Hammond.
Is that unusual that you haven't received any from Richland County yet?
No, ma'am, it's not.
other questions regarding financials? Dr. Melton, I wanted to go back to an item you updated us about, is the facility study. And I know you all have met preliminarily. I know they've been in all our schools. They looked at all the different schools and the uses and so forth. Have they projected down the road that how they'll make their presentation? And then at that point, I guess this community has to decide of what they present and our future needs, how we will rank those items and go about implementing part of that. Have they delved into that area at all yet, or is that too early?
Well, I'm not sure that it's too early. It's been part of the conversation. Mr. Richardson and I have met with the team, as well as Mr. Carlin, who joined us for the initial conversation of planning. We've not gotten to the point yet that we could offer a template as to what it may look like. I believe, based on the information that Mr. Richardson and I received, every report is unique to the district and what the board and the community are expecting to look for. So at this time, they're still working on individual on-site analysis. We have gotten the impression that it's going to be a pretty extensive list of identified needs that we'll be able to bring to the board, and then you all can help us identify how you would like to sort and organize. What our plan will be is to identify some priorities. What do we see? Dr. Harris may say we have some safety issues that we need to be responsible and responsive to. Mr. Richardson may say we know that we have roofing issues that we need to be responsive to. We may discover some facilities needs that this group has identified that maybe we hadn't even noticed to this point. So the organization can be based upon our request, and then what we plan to do is to make sure that the board has a chance to see it, board officers would have a chance to see the template, but we certainly want to make sure that the community has a chance to be informed of it as well, because there will be needs identified throughout this community, and I would dare say probably identified needs at each campus. Ms. Richardson, anything you can think of that I may have overlooked from our initial meetings thus far?
We've even taken it a little bit further. We've also asked them to look at the district office facilities, the maintenance facilities, transportation facilities, as well as some of our vacant facilities just to see if there's any alternative uses for some of those facilities. So that's really, other than what she said, the only other things that I can think of.
Ms. Hammond.
Dr. Melton, how is this different than, like, say, just a regular year when principals come to us with needs and prioritize? Is this more the district office doing it, or is there input from the same list our principals maybe have already made each year?
I appreciate that question because it can easily be confusing to anyone in the community, and it can be confusing to anyone that works in the district, quite frankly. Every spring, and Ms. Richardson changed and added a new additional layer last spring, but every spring principals submit their needs that they have for capital improvements. The change that Ms. Richardson brought into District 5 last year was for 3 of our staff members from our facility staff walked every building with every principal and every custodial supervisor, facility supervisor, and having a chance to look into every nook and cranny. It may have been in closets where servers are. Ms. Pascal's nodding her head. What was believed to have been a 30-minute walkthrough on average turned into a 3-hour walkthrough. So you can imagine if a principal and a facility supervisor spends 3 hours walking through a building with 3 people from Mr. Richardson's team on average, that's a commitment of time. But that's based on things that principals know that they need someone to look at and to see. Having an external person that we've contracted services with, they have a more professional eye as to what kinds of recommendations they can give to us. What are some things that they're seeing as far as trends that have been identified across the country within their industry that we wouldn't have the expertise to see? So what we would say would be, how can we couple this together? How can we take the identified needs from principals and then take the identified needs through this facility study to make sure that we are responsive and reactive to the needs that have been identified? We certainly want to be proactive. What can we do to plan for the future with our facilities? But there's going to be some things that we need to be responsive to that have been identified as a result of this report being created by external experts. Ms. Rich, did I forget anything?
No, ma'am, you did not forget anything, but I will add one thing that, since your question revolved around the request from principals, we did provide all that information to these folks as well so that they would know, and not where for like HVAC, we know the replacement cycle on those units, so we're not asking them to look at those type of things. We're looking at them to look at the structures more so than we are the mechanicals, unless we have some schools where we may have both issues, and then I don't know what kind of recommendations will come out of that.
I appreciate that prompt because Mr. Richardson's given them a variety of documents to include capital reports and some of the projections that the board has approved over the course of the last few years. So they've got a variety of artifacts that they can use to do an analysis of us in addition to their walkthrough of things that they're recording for us.
And I had a follow-up to that. From what you said, would there be more of like the professional, you're saying that's kind of from the outside, would we look at it more when it's brought to us? I'm just trying to think about equity among schools. Would it be more than us worrying about equity, like all the schools, you know, appreciate and want? Would it be more of what that more important need is? You know what I'm saying? You're not looking at your list, because we know it'll be a lot. You're not looking at it like an area that would all get the same amount, say, of work done. Instead, it would be more like what is more crucial and what should be done first.
I'm not sure that I'm clear.
I'm thinking of the template. I'm just thinking about, I know it'll be extensive if you've looked at every nook and cranny of the
Right,
school.
right.
And even the district office. We know their great needs. I was just wondering if the way it will be, it's being looked at to be presented to us. I mean, I know you
Sure,
don't know yet.
sure.
But I'm just trying to think, would your group try to do it, bring it to us in an equitable manner from school to school, or it would really be what's needed most where, not to worry about one area getting more than another?
Based on where we are now, and obviously we've not finished the project because of the 4 days that we missed, neither Mr. Richardson nor I can predict what it may look like. We have not seen a chart that may identify X school has 8 things listed, this
Right.
school, ABC, has 3 things. We've not got to that point, nor can we say this school has a need of $300,000 and this school has a need of $1 million. We're nowhere near that point. We have been told during the most recent meeting that we've had, after the contract was awarded, we have been told that the list will be extensive.
Right.
But extensive may be some things that we say, this is important to know, but not yet to fund. It may be something that we need to be responsive to actually get into a plan of what may happen for the future. So if the board were to have specific wishes as to how you would like that designed and developed, we can certainly give that to the group that's working on this. But we've not got to the point yet that we can even identify how to sort this report out because we haven't seen the collected data to this point. But hopefully, if Mr. Richardson and I could have predictable behavior, you know that it's going to be organized in a way to be sensible, not in a scatter plot that's going to be confusing to all of you. So that will be our commitment to make it as organized and cohesive as possible, knowing that every school is going to have identified needs, and then engage you all with what that may look like at that point.
Thank you.
Mr. White?
And I guess it goes without saying that we're talking about all 3 clusters getting evaluated so that, I mean, we know we need a new elementary school to relieve Lake Point, and Chapin has other needs, Irmo has needs that didn't get met in their other referendum, and I'm assuming we're talking about the only way to fund these kind of projects is going to be if the decision is made to go forward with another referendum. But and of course, touch forward, but you do have there's always, I think, what Ms. Hammond's talking about, there gets to be a little bit of why don't one have what the other one has, and I think to me, you know, we ought to make sure that we're giving all 3 clusters a good hard look. And one of the things we did back in 2007 or so when we did the referendum that was successful, the superintendent at the time I thought was very helpful. I mean, there was a long list of needs. The administrators had prioritized them, but then there was a combination of some board members, some community members, you know, a lot of them the superintendent picked, and then a cross-section from different clusters, et cetera, and then also, you know, administrators were picked. It was a nice combination. I actually served on that with a couple of other board members, and it was interesting to watch how those priorities got sorted when there were a lot of different perspectives looking at them, and what emerged was a consensus for all 3 clusters, and I think that's, you know, I think that's a process when you get all those inputs can be to a fair conclusion, because you're not going to have the ability to fund everything. It's identified.
Yeah.
You good? Thank you, Mr. White. Anyone else have a comment? Thank you, Dr. Milton. I appreciate you allowing us to go
Absolutely.
back to that a little bit.
Well, for those that may be in the audience or that may be viewing this later, in case they don't know, just to make sure that I respond to what Mr. White was saying, every campus and facility in School District 5 is being visited. We're not noting certain ones. Every campus has been visited, in addition to the other needs that Mr. Richardson mentioned earlier. My last report is just a simple reminder that this Sunday at Irmo Elementary School at 3 o'clock, we'll be having a dedication for the Francis W. Allen Auditorium. This is open to the community, but just in the event someone has missed out on this publication of this invitation, please make note of that. Sunday at 3 o'clock at Irmo Elementary to honor and name the Irmo Elementary Auditorium in honor of Mr. Francis W. Allen. That concludes my report, Mr. Gant.
Thank you, Dr. Milton. And that will bring us to item number 12, which is public participation.